Okay, let's find out in chapter 16 what happens at this board meeting. Ready? The next evening, the meeting of the Elk Valley School Board began on time. Mr. Jordan was there. So was Mr. Hawkins, the Methodist minister, a roly-poly man too large for the dark suit he wore, and Mr. Morris, a down valley sheep rancher, dressed in his working clothes. By his side was Mr. Plumstead, looking very formal in his suit, with a high white collar, tie, and wired frame glasses. The four sat on the bench, brought forward for the occasion. All 8 school children, including Herbert, sat in the row before the school board. They had gotten there early. Their parents sat there behind them. Though Herbert was there, his father wasn't. But some dozen other men and women from the valley were in the back of the room. When Mr. Jordan had arrived, he had been surprised to see so many people. "Seems to me," Mr. Jordan opened the meeting by saying, "we've got ourselves quite a mess here. The school was supposed to be closed. But not only was it kept open, Ida Bison was pretending to be the teacher." "And I'm afraid," interjected Mr. Plumstead, "I saw Miss Fletcher lock the front door. She gave me the key, and I gave it to you, Mr. Jordan. In other words, these children have been trespassing on township property." "How did you get in?" "Through the window," Herbert blurted out. One of the parents in the audience barely suppressed laughter. "But may I ask," interjected Mr. Hawkins, the minister, "if there has been any damage done to the building? You inspected it, Mr. Jordan. Any problems?" Mr. Jordan pointed to the boy's wardrobe. "When I came in the other day, a mule was there, in that wardrobe." That time the crowd broke into laughter. "Did you do an inspection?" Mr. Hawkins persisted. "Well, yes. There was no damage," Mr. Jordan admitted. "But trespassing is trespassing, and mules don't belong in schools." "Oh, I don't know," Mr. Morris drawled. "I can remember a few two-legged ones from my day." The audience laughed again. "Now, sir," said Mr. Hawkins, "I can't speak about mules, but seems to me these children was just trying to get on with their education. Fact is, gentlemen, I didn't even know Mrs. Fletcher was gone." "Leastwise, Mr. Jordan, you never informed me, did you?" he asked Mr. Morris. "Only recently." "Too late to get a replacement," Mr. Jordan growled. "Didn't want to bother you." "I accept your explanation, sir," said Mr. Hawkins, "but I can't see how these children did any real harm. Fact is, I'd say they was doing what we'd want 'em to, learn. And I'd say more power to 'em." The audience applauded. Looking uncomfortable, Mr. Jordan said, "But this girl," he pointed to Ida, "this Ida Bison was pretending to be a teacher. Can't pay the girl if she's not licensed." "Did you pay her?" someone called from the audience. "Course not," Mr. Jordan said. "She isn't licensed." "Then, sir, she saved us a considerable sum of money, didn't she?" said Mr. Hawkins. Once again, the room erupted in laughter. Ida raised her hand. "What do you want?" Mr. Jordan demanded. "May I say something, please?" she said. "I don't know as how—" "Oh, let the girl speak," Mr. Morris suggested. "After all, you have accused her of wrongdoing." The other men on the board nodded. Ida rose from her bench. "Mr. Jordan, we didn't mean any harm. It's just that both Tom and I want to go on to high school so badly. Tom's going to be an electric specialist. I want to be a teacher. But we need to finish our schooling for that. And we need to take the exit exams so we can go. The other children wanted to move on too and not have to repeat anything. We did everything by vote. Majority always ruled." "You can say that again," Herbert cried out. "In conclusion," I went on, "I should like to recite a poem Miss Fletcher taught us. We don't do poetry at school board meetings," Mr. Jordan said gruffly. "Might be a notable thing if we did," Mr. Hawkins said. Red-faced, Mr. Jordan said, "Well, I suppose you can do your piece." Ida's hands extended, and gestured dramatically as she began. Do what conscience says is right. Do what reason says is best. Do with all your mind and might. Do your duty and be blessed. Ida paused, then said, Please, sirs. The term is almost over. Miss Sagewick from the county education office said she'd come and test us all. We'd just appreciate it if you gave us the chance to try. There was applause from the crowd and even some stomping of the feet. As Ida sat down, Tom whispered, Pretty corny, but great job. The members of the school board excused themselves and went out to the porch. While they were conferring, everyone else grouped around Ida, congratulating her. Finally, the four men trooped back in and sat down. We've had our discussion. A grim look on Mr. Jordan's face began. We're going to let this secret school go forward for 2 more weeks with Ida Bison as the teacher, so the children can take their exams. But that's the only reason. There were cheers from the audience. A beaming Ida stood up. Think. Mr. Jordan held up his hand. Hold on. There are some conditions. First, the families whose children are involved must take responsibility for the school building and the grounds. Second, we expect every child to pass their exams. If they don't, I want the whole valley to know. It won't be the board's doing. It'll be the teachers. With that, Mr. Jordan promptly stood up and marched out of the room. The other board members mingled with the excited crowd. Ida sat still for a moment and then allowed herself an enormous sigh of relief. Guess you did it again, Tom said. Ida looked at her hands. Thank you. Guess you are one all right girl. Startled, Ida looked around. What's that supposed to mean? Tom grinned. Swell. How'd you get those words? He shrugged. On the radio. Impulsively, Ida gave him a hug. Then she felt a rush of confusion, blushed deeply, and ran outside. The night sky, cloudless and moonless, was blossoming with a million stars. There seemed no end to them. We won, Ida exhaled. We won. Then she checked herself. No, not yet. I must pass the exam. Okay, I am going to read chapter 17 later and post it. We only have 2 chapters left. Bye, guys.